So, The Lighthouse sucked.
Yeah.
Bad movie. Um, Willem Dafoe, good. Robert Pattinson, good. The Lighthouse, bad.
So you like the acting in The Lighthouse, you didn't like the movie itself. Is that what I can take from
Yes,
this?
I'd say that's correct. I liked both actors before this, and I liked their performances in this, but it was lunacy.
I would almost say the acting carried the plot though. So if you like the acting, then it's hard not to appreciate the plot at
Yeah.
least.
No, it'd be great if there was a plot. That would have made this movie a fucking ace in the hole.
Well, I looked at it as two men who have made some mistakes in their past
Mm-hmm.
end up on this rock together and are marooned by a storm
Yeah.
and are drinking some farm boy swill concocted up in a like a witch's cauldron and drunk out of an oil can, turpentine style.
Yeah.
And it's just like their slow descent into insanity. And it, the movie calls into question what's going on multiple times, and I
What?
can understand where your confusion stems from, but I think that was intentional because it was like, is everything as it seems here? Like, I'm still sort of left questioning whether Willem Dafoe was there or not, or whether Robert Pattinson, after we find out that he had killed a man in his last post,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they sent him to that rock to kind of, instead of sending him to prison or whatever, go work at this abandoned, isolated lighthouse, keep that in check. But you'll be out there alone, live your sad existence after killing a man. And Willem Dafoe's character was part of his delusions or descent into insanity as he drunk himself into.
The thought crossed my mind that something is a figment of someone's imagination, or someone's figment of someone's imagination.
Yeah, I mean, the otherworldly, like the, seemingly mystical aspect of the lighthouse, like, I think that was more symbolic as opposed to like a literal representation of this weird octopus entity that's
Yeah.
like possessing the lighthouse keepers or whatever. I think it was more representational of a guy who's losing his marbles a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's not far off from my thoughts or my takeaway from the movie. But my takeaway is just watching two lunatics be insane. Like,
Yeah,
this is just
was there
watching
not some
two
joy
crazy
in that?
people get crazier.
But that was the beauty in it for me.
Yeah, but like that's why. Like, there's no story there though.
Well, I think it was a story about a guy dealing with grief. Like, it was Robert Pattinson after he had killed that guy in his last job at the logging company there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
then he was sent here, supposedly sent here, and it was like him indirectly coping with all that and like him losing it because of that, not just because of that, but also the setting he was in, situation he was in. But you're also left to question that final shot of the movie where he's getting pecked apart by gulls on a rock. Like, maybe he never made it to the island with the lighthouse either, right? Like, maybe his ship crashed into a rock with all the fog and lack of visibility, and
Yeah.
that was him, like a dying man. The final moments, he's created this whole kind of story as he's dying, being on this rock with this crazy lighthouse keeper who's getting fucked by the octopus on top of the lighthouse. And
But like, what is that? If you leave more to a movie, if there's more in a movie that's left up to interpretation than there is in the actual movie, like, what's the point?
What? Sorry, what do you
Like,
mean? Clarify that.
whether or not he's a lunatic, this is all a figment of his imagination, whatever. I can think about that all day, but this movie gave me an hour and a half of two guys yelling at each other. Like, there was nothing in this movie. There's no substance to this movie. The only substance is what you can draw from it with your own theories, like drawing your own conclusions about the end. It's not.
But movies can't be like that to you. There needs to be some sort of, like, what did you need that wasn't there, I guess? Just some explanation or exposure on something, or more than just two guys. Like, I found it kind of refreshing and nice that it was just two guys yelling at each other and going kind of crazy together. Like, it really shines a spotlight on both Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson's ability to
Scream at each other.
Well, to act, because it's like very like raw emotional moments between the two. And you're left with some mystery because of their interactions throughout the film too. So I don't know. I found it like they're, resistant to each other at first, and play it pretty guarded, and you're left to wonder what's lying under the surface between the two of them. And then as the power dynamic becomes more apparent, and Willem's keeping Robert Pattinson from accessing the lighthouse, and there's some disdain that brews between the two, and you can sense a conflict coming, but they're also in a position where, like, the only human interaction the two have is with each other. So it's like this sense of, we see Robert Pattinson at a couple of different points in the movie, like, wrestling with, I think I want to kill this guy. Like, he's ordering me around. He's making me do all the grunt work. He seemingly doesn't do anything except tend to the light. But he doesn't go through with it. And
Except he does.
Well, he gets pushed to the brink, I guess. Yeah, and starts, really feeding into his delusions.
If this is all in Robert Pattinson's head and he still kills Willem Dafoe's character, then there's no, like, development here. There's no story here. There's no, like...
Well,
it would be more impactful if he was having this psychic break, like this psychotic break, but he, if he overcame that or didn't kill Willem Dafoe as he should have, or as he was, like, being pushed to.
But I'm not sure there was any Willem Dafoe to kill. Like, I think I'm not sure Willem Dafoe even existed. In my head,
that's what I mean. Like, if it was a figment of his imagination, if that was a real person that, like you said, was ordering him around, and he had wanted to kill him on multiple occasions, and had a disdain for him. If that was actually another person, and he killed him, I would understand that. That would be, like, a compelling situation, a compelling story. But if it is, like, this representation of his psychotic break, and he kills him anyway, what the fuck was the point? This is just watching a guy have a psychotic breakdown.
But he had to kill him. Like, to me, Willem Dafoe's character was a representation of his old foreman that he killed previous to this supposed job at the lighthouse. Like, Willem Dafoe was ordering him around. He was talking about when he got super drunk and spilling his beans. He was talking about how, he was always getting called a dog and do this, do that, do this, do that. So it was like Willem Dafoe's character was just like a almost reincarnation of his old foreman there, Ephraim Winslow, as he's dying, getting pecked apart by seabirds after his ship was marooned on this rock on his way to this new potential job opportunity that he got trying to be a better man after he had taken the identity of the man he had just killed at the logging company. So it's like
Right.
that guilt drove him to this psychotic delusion of a dying man to create this. He made it to the lighthouse. He didn't actually, his ship didn't get marooned, and he isn't getting pecked apart by seabirds. He made it to the lighthouse. He's, had a clean slate, started again, but then that shit's not real. It's like, the insanity started creeping its way in because of the murder he had committed and the guilt he felt, and it's like your life flashing before your eyes, but instead of his life flashing before his eyes, he was like, that was the last thing he could think of was the tragic reality of him, killing a man and not being the same because of it.
I mean, that goes back to my point of you have created a better story with what you're inferring than what we've seen, than the context
But
we
I think
actually
that
got
was
from.
the intent of the
I know,
filmmaker,
but you're like,
of Robert Eggers.
I appreciate that, but what you're using from the movie is such a small piece to create the rest of this, or like such small segments to create the rest of this.
But I think you have to piece together those small segments. That was the intent of the film, and
I know, but
I don't want to say I'm right. My interpretation
but that's
is
the thing.
right because it could be interpreted differently. But
I think that's where my bias sets in, is I don't appreciate movies that can be interpreted 1,000 different ways. I can appreciate movies that can be interpreted 2 different ways, 5 different ways, 10 different ways, like, looking at it from different perspectives. But if you put a movie in front of me that, everybody will take away what they need from it, I don't appreciate that movie. That's a fucking fortune cookie. Like, that's a horoscope. That's
yeah,
not,
well, you could say there's
value
2
in that.
different ways to interpret this. There's my way, and then there's that it was real. And
No, I know, but that's it. But you're this, like, everybody watching this movie and creating their own headcanon of where he was marooned on this rock, getting picked apart by seagulls, like in what stage of the process that happened. There's so many different branches to that.
yeah,
one
like he could,
theory
whenever
that you
he
have.
started getting fed up and started taking the boat out, or there could have been a point where he tried to escape beforehand, and that's when he gets marooned or something. And yeah. I
like,
mean, that could be the case too, but it still leads back to like a guy who's wrestling with the guilt of killing a man. Like, I think that at the end of the day, that's the plot. It's
but like, spend more than 5 minutes on that at the very end of the movie.
But no, the whole thing is him unraveling, him being unzipped, as Frank Reynolds would say. Like, he thinks he can go to this job at the lighthouse and start fresh as like the guy he just killed, adopting his identity.
Mm-hmm.
But Willem puts him to the test. But I think Willem is a representation of his guilt that's slowly breaking him down. And this whole like mystical shit is just, the ravings of a madman that's marooned out on a lighthouse, I guess. Yeah. Maybe that's what he thought he deserved too, after killing the guy in the logging company, or feeling the guilt of that. Maybe that's like he created that in his mind, that's what he deserved as a way to go out or whatever.
Mm-hmm. What did you have more specifically from the movie? Because again, like, we keep getting back to, I think your theories are great. I appreciate the additions to what we didn't see in the story,
but I'm not adding anything to what we didn't see. I'm interpreting based on what we did see.
Yeah, but I appreciate your interpretation of this. My interpretation was that it was bad.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well,
I
yeah.
I
It's
like I know
bad because, but it's hard for me to get past like you describing it as just two guys yelling at each other. Like you got to
yeah.
read this. What does all that yelling mean? Like, were you understanding the dialogue and stuff? And
I mean, mostly. I mean, the
it was a
dialogue was
little
fucking
like
ridiculous. But
sailory or something, right? Or like old timey.
yeah,
Some of the language, especially like Willem's soliloquies and stuff. But I did like his demeanor changes. Like he could flip on a dime. Willem's character.
yeah. Which that was another like it. Maybe it was interesting to me, somewhat compelling. Maybe I can give the movie credit for that. But watching the two lunatics switch places, like we do of that 180 from, yeah, Willem Dafoe is a complete fucking loose cannon at the beginning, turns on a dime, and Robert Pattinson very calm, collected until that all changes and flips on its head.
Yeah, they sort of. Yeah, I mean Robert Pattinson adopts the same sort of mannerisms and behavior as Willem Dafoe, I guess.
Mm.
But they also mirror each other too, like with Willem's character killing his last, or potentially, supposedly killing the previous first mate or whatever, lighthouse assistant.
But that's another thing. Like, if Willem Dafoe's character isn't real and it's a figment of Robert Pattinson's imagination, like, that doesn't matter anymore.
But
It
it's
matters for Robert Pattinson's mindset, but
that's the thing. It's still representational of his situation, just in another form, right? He's projecting his own situation onto this fictional Willem Dafoe lighthouse character who has a dark past as well, who's maybe had a hand in the disappearance of his last assistant or whatever. Like, it's still
yeah.
this story he's concocted that's a projection of his own reality to me.
Yeah, okay. That makes it less meaningful to me.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Like, do you not like very like personal psychological type of movies, or
I don't know. Give me an example of one that I've probably seen.
well, it just sounds like you like the, at least like like you said, you like the acting. What about like the technical, like what about the black and white and stuff, and like
I like the
the
black and
use
white,
of
and I like the
lighting and
4:3.
shadows was,
I did like the 4:3 aspect ratio for the setting.
okay,
And yeah,
interesting. So yeah, like you appreciated the
I like the
technical aspects of
cinematography.
the filmmaking,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just not the content as much.
Yeah, I didn't like the plot, whatever it was intended to be, or whatever I was supposed to get out of it. I didn't like.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
yes, technically, I liked the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, technical features. Yeah.
There was a couple of one shots I liked too, like rising up the lighthouse slowly, that came back a couple of times throughout the movie, actually. I mean, obviously the lighthouse itself was quite symbolic, I guess, but no, I did appreciate the more technical aspects too. Like I was saying, the use of light and shadows is pretty huge in a black and white movie.
Yeah.
But even just to like not hide facial expression, but kind of, it almost enhanced facial expression because you're sort of not like squinting to see what's going on, but their faces are often bathed in darkness or one side. So you're kind of getting like a Jekyll and Hyde type situation with the shadowing and use of light. So no, I did think that was top notch for sure. That added to my enjoyment of it for sure.
I like the setting too. Like I did like the interior of the lighthouse was very compelling. Just like that kind of empty room with the oil barrels at the bottom,
Yeah.
and then just a big staircase up to nothing.
Yeah.
Well, essentially nothing.
Yeah, just the cage at the top, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the lighthouse house itself too. Like the progression of that getting completely fucking debilitated and destroyed by the storm.
Yeah.
After the conversation too about he didn't clean the floors well enough or whatever.
Yeah.
Scrub them another 8 times, and then it becomes like, inundated, and there's a fucking axe in the table, and it's been torn apart and by 2 drunken maniacs.
Yeah. I like the progression of the water too in the house. Like, it started with the one shingle in the bedroom there dripping on his face, and then there was like the couple in the kitchen or whatever, and then there was a couple more, and then finally with the whole windows all caving in. Then
could be some, if we're looking at it from my perspective as him dying on that rock with the gulls picking at him, then that could be like symbolic of the water kind of creeping up, lashing at his
the
body, swallowing him
storm.
sort of subconsciously. In the story he's created, he's, things are flooding around and the storm's whipping up, the waves are crashing.
Yeah. Sure. If it works for your interpretation.
What'd you think about Willem being buried alive?
Yeah, that's right. So, that was I don't know why he's doing that. Or
He
who
went
asked him
really
to
all
do
in on that.
No kidding.
He's like chewing on dirt the whole time.
I hope that isn't dirt.
I'm sure it's, something other than straight dirt.
Yeah, I hope not. I don't know. He is getting paid probably, $50 million for it or something.
True.
But yeah.
He does seem like the type of guy that go the extra mile, too.
Yeah. Fair, right? Just to be real.
Well, and we actually need you to die in this, all right?
We'll bring
have
you
the
back.
Defibrillator, yeah. We'll get you back as quick as possible, but we need you to really sell it here.
Yeah, no, that was weird. Well, I mean, it was expected, I guess, at that point. By the time you killed him.
Yeah,
I guess it was weird that
it
he
was
didn't kill him at that point.
Like that he came back after he had left and axed him in the shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was playing possum or something there for a second.
Yeah, I guess so.
Just as an opportunity to kind of call back to a previous project, it was kind of funny seeing Robert Pattinson interact with mermaids once again after the Triwizard Tournament in Harry Potter. He must be an expert with them by now. Although maybe he likes them a little too much.
That's the thing, an expert in what capacity?
Mermaid anatomy, I guess. He's familiar with all sorts of creatures now.
Yeah, no, that is a funny little tie-in.
Although I guess it's not. It's sort of like maybe a bit of foreshadowing because we haven't covered Goblet of Fire yet. We just did.
Oh, true. Actually, yeah.
Philosopher's Stone, Sorcerer's Stone, however you want to refer to it.
Not publicly, anyway.
Not publicly, no.
It's just an archive episode. It's Fanatics years only.
It'll come eventually. Well, yeah, I do want to reiterate the acting, too. I thought the acting was stupendous, like, in terms of showing range. I mean, I was already familiar with Willem Dafoe's acting ability. He's been in a lot of stuff, and just the guy really sells it. But Robert Pattinson, like, just the slow descent of a crazy man is a very compelling story to me if acted well, and I thought Pattinson knocked it out of the park on this one. Just like the crazy eyes and
the seagull too. Like killing the seagull was that was a great moment.
Smashing
just like
the
the
bits.
immediate, like the rage, that flipping the switch like right away.
Yeah, you knew there was something, a couple screws loose in this guy.
Yeah. And then
He's
he just
impulsive.
broke.
He's quick on the trigger, kind of.
Yeah. He wasn't quick to kill the gull, though. I
No.
mean, he was quick to do it. He just wasn't quick to be finished with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the gulls themselves were quite symbolic in this one.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing with, like, don't kill a gull because it's,
Bad luck.
yeah, soul of a dead sailor inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then for that to come full circle at the end with the ending shot, him being picked apart by gulls.
Yeah.
And it buggering up the cistern and stuff too. Like it was kind of a constant problem, right? The gulls were very symbolic, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, the acting was superb, and yeah, it really just shows, when it's left to two people, like besides the mermaid, it was really just those two guys, right? So it speaks volumes to somebody's ability. It felt much more like a play to me, almost.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I have to give credit for that. As much as I disliked the plot, I wasn't bored.
Sure.
Like, I was engaged. I was intrigued the whole time. By the end of it, once I was finished the movie, I had decided I disliked it. I was waiting to like it probably the whole time. I was still
on the fence.
I was still there. Like, I was ready for it. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there is something to be said. Because some movies, like, I've watched some of and just turned off.
Yeah. You get 15 minutes in, you're like, I just can't. Yeah. Wherever this is going, I don't want to be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I think the sort of mystery of this, too, to keep you hanging on, wanting some answer or explanation. And kind of what it all means.
And even more credit to that, like, to that sentiment of, shutting off a movie shortly into it. Like, it was silence for the first 5-10 minutes of this movie, and I was still...
Yeah,
engaged.
didn't even
we didn't
realize the subtitles weren't on until it's 7.5 minutes in.
But yeah, that wasn't a problem for me. I wasn't turned off by that right away. Or wasn't turned off by that at all.
No, yeah. I mean, it was a little slow to get into, maybe. I mean, slower burn overall.
Slow burn.
The third act is when it really, like, ratcheted up.
Slow burn, but not long. Like, that's the thing. If you had a slow burn and it's like a 2.5 hour movie, that's too much. But yeah, you're right. It was mostly third act, but the first two acts were, an hour and a half movie.
Yeah.
What was the octopus or the squid or do you have any thoughts on what that was supposed to represent, or like the symbolism behind that? Because that's too fucking weird to be random.
Yeah, that one's a bit of a stumper to me, to a degree. Like, I see it in some way connected to the little mermaid pendant there. Sort of representational, because he's like, to me, that's representative of like this sexual repression or whatever, right? Like they're isolated out here. There's no women. There's no human interaction beyond the two of them, whether there's two of them there or not. So I sort of see the octopus as Willem's version of the Little Mermaid token thing. Like his sexual obsession with this otherworldly kind of being. Like for Robert Pattinson, it was the mermaid. For Willem, it was the octopus. But it was like the octopus was this more enchanting version of what the mermaid was for Robert Pattinson. That's why he was so hell-bent on getting up there, and that's why Willem was so protective of the light itself. Like he felt some devotion or connection to it that he didn't want to be shared with Robert Pattinson. Like he refers to it as his wife at one point. Like he's married to the light. Like he has this deep personal connection. So to me, it was like he was selfish of that. He didn't want Robert Pattinson to be included in that until he was like ready. And to me, ready is like, you hit the point of insanity and you're gone. Like you're lost to the sea or whatever. Your mind is lost to the sea and you start getting fucked by an octopus, I guess. You graduate from mermaids to
that's
giant squids.
That's where I'm still confused. Where did the octopus come into play there?
Well, it was like
the octopus.
I don't think it was
is
a
the
legit
light?
octopus. Like it was well, yeah.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
there's no real answer to me. Like, yes, the octopus and the light are intertwined. The octopus is the light. The light is the octopus. The light is like has supposedly some special power, but the light could also, I don't know, be representational of like the walking into the light. You know what I mean? Like death, like the light accepting your fate or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well,
as he does at the end.
Yeah,
right?
that seems to be the case.
And then he I don't know if he's viewing himself in that last shot. Like he comes to sort of and realizes that he's on this rock, slumped over, about to die, getting his intestines pulled out. Like maybe him going into the light, accepting his fate, undid the fucking crazy delusions that he'd been having over the course of the last, I don't know, like how long does it take to die after he sustained those injuries type of thing.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know if that gives any sort of answer to you, or at least like my perspective on the situation, but the octopus was more of like it was a bit like, it was an artistic choice, I guess, as opposed to anything more than that in my eyes.
Yeah.
It was just like a weird, like to make Willem like more fucking weird, and I don't know, it maybe supports the fact that Willem wasn't there either in my mind a little bit, that he's like, having weird relations with an octopus. It just doesn't, it makes him less real to me, right?
Sure, yeah.
Because Robert Pattinson at the end there's never any like octopus imagery. It was just with whenever he's peering up above and getting the sludge dripped on him and he sees the tentacles and stuff.
Well, like when he's beating the piss out of Willem Dafoe in the kitchen there.
Yeah,
but
Dafoe
goes, like,
he's about to
octopus.
But he's about to that was to me. He's about to kill him, just like that grief is cropping up in his mind again of killing the first, because Willem also turns into the guy he killed at the logging company, right? Right. The blonde-haired Canadian dude or whatever. And then the mermaid, and it's sort of just like him wigging out a bit. The octopus, it's because he saw Willem getting fucked by it earlier, and now he represents the octopus with Willem, and they're sort of weaving together because neither of them are real. It's just this delusion.
Right. Madness.
It was, yeah. I mean, granted, it was madness, but I quite enjoyed the madness. And I'd normally be turned off by like a black and white movie.
Oh, really?
I just like color, like things to pop and visually like creative, but it was still able to be visually creative, I think, with, like we were talking about, the use of light and shadows and And the setting, just, it made sense for a black and white movie, too.
Yeah, the time period.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would have played much differently if the movie was in color.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that, any final thoughts, or should we move on to tier list? Because I think we're going to be at odds for this one.
Yeah, definitely we're going to be at odds for this one. Yeah, not much. Credit to the fucking stunt guy who fell down all those stairs, though.
Yeah.
God damn, that would have hurt. That was so high up.
True.
Yeah.
And falling out while he was painting on the
Yeah,
side of the
that one too.
lighthouse there.
Yeah, there was a couple stunts in this that were like, damn, that's some real shit. That's like a serious injury.
Yeah, for real. So since you've been pretty clear that you didn't really like this movie, I'll throw it over to you first for tier list. Where would you put it based on greatest of all time, outstanding, solid, needs some work? I hesitate to even give you the option of where movies go to die, because I can't think that it's that low for you, but let's see.
Here's the thing about where movies go to die and how the Lighthouse stacks up. No, where movies go to die would be reserved for like shit that I actually feel like I wasted my time watching.
Right.
I didn't feel like I wasted my time watching. I mean, maybe we put Daredevil down one more. I didn't feel like I wasted my time watching this. I did. Like, I was intrigued and I was compelled. Wake Up also seems a little harsh because, like we said, the technical aspects, the cinematography, the acting, that was all great, and I appreciated all that. It was the plot and story for me that I just couldn't get behind.
Yeah.
So for that, I'm going to put it in the needs some work category.
Okay.
Still got to put it in the negative ones. Overall, I think it was a lower, like, if I were to rate this movie out of 10, I think it would be under 5, so it still is in the negative category.
Yep.
But, yeah, on the top end of that anyway, thanks to old Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe.
The Frogman. Okay, that's fair. I mean, yeah, that's based on what you've said. I wouldn't have expected anything less than that. I guess I appreciate where you put it, even despite your overall dislike of it. I enjoyed it much more than you did, it seems. But it wasn't a perfect film for me. I liked the sort of mystery of it and the psychological inferences to be made. And the acting was top notch, like I said, and technical aspects were there. So it's definitely like I'd put it in a positive category. It wouldn't go in greatest of all time. I would hesitate to say outstanding. I'm thinking I'd probably, part of me wants to put it on the low end of outstanding, but I think a more safe place for it in my mind is like mid solid.
Okay.
For me.
Okay, we're not that far off then.
Yeah, like I think there's a couple other, I don't know if we have anything in solid right now. But I don't necessarily think it would be like at the top of the solid list. But I think it would be neatly somewhere in the middle, trending towards the top.
Okay.
For the reasons I talked about over the course of this podcast.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I respect that. Like I said, we're not that far.
I guess taking into account yours, we could put it on the lower end.
We could probably meet
solid.
in the middle, at the bottom of solid.
Yeah.
It seems like a good compromise. So, there you go. I mean, still worth a watch, according to the Fraternal Fanatics. If anything in those positive categories is worth a watch.
Yeah, nothing to rush back to necessarily, but worth a watch, I think, especially if you're into sort of a more subjective interpretation of things. If you want to be left with that.
Yeah, or if you really like browsing Reddit.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is a great movie for that. I haven't checked yet, but I have no doubt.
Yeah, I'm sure the theory crafting has been pretty good for this one.